Welcome back to another episode of It's Time for Beer. I am Brandon. Now this week, my wife and I are in vacation in Orlando, Florida. We went to a restaurant called Bahama Breeze last night, and if you're from this area, you may know it. I'd never heard of it before. The waiter came over and he asked me if I would like to try their signature beer, Aruba Red. He said the beer was brewed on site in the restaurant, and I said, "Really? I didn't realize this was a brew pub." And I said, "So it's brewed here on these premises?" And he kind of stuttered through an answer, and he said, "Well, actually, it's brewed by Anheiser Busch for our restaurant, and we put our name on it." And I said, "Ah." He looked at my wife, and my wife said, "You lost him at Anheiser Busch. He's kind of a beer snob." The waiter looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I'm kind of a beer snob myself. I went over to Germany and drank a lot of the beers they had over there, and this is by far one of the best beers I've ever had." So I said, "And it's brewed by Anheuser Busch." And he said, "I'm going to get you a sample." And he runs away, and he comes back in a few minutes, and he brings me a little, shot glass size, and I tried it. I asked him, "Is it an ale or is it a lager?" He said, "Well, it's an ale and a lager." I said, "It's either one or the other. It's not going to be both." He goes, "Well, it's more of an ale than a lager, but it's pretty much both." At that point in time, the bartender kind of leans over his shoulder and says, "It's an amber lager." And I think to this, he was a little embarrassed because he kind of turned around and walked away. Came back a few minutes later to take our order. That being said, my review for this beer, clearly I don't have one, but you can see in the picture that's moving in front of me right here that I did actually drink this beer. And off. Now, the look of this beer, it looked like it had almost no carbonation in it. It didn't look anything like it did in this picture. Big fluffy head up here and bubbles streaming all up from the bottom. It was completely flat, at least in the look. It was a bright red when I put it up to the light, so it was clearly a red beer. The smell was very bready. You could smell some alcohol coming off of it. I don't know what the ABV was on this. The waiter didn't know. The bartender didn't know. I called back earlier today and I asked them if they could give me some information on it, and they said, "We don't know. Could you call back later and we'll check on it for you?" I called back and they still didn't know. So I'm getting the idea that they have no clue what they have. I mean, the whole restaurant, like I said, is a bar, and they serve Budweiser, Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, and Yuengling. Oh, and this one, Aruba Red. Whenever I finally tasted the beer, it tasted just like Killian's. And yes, I know Coors brews Killian's. If you can find a Killian's review on YouTube somewhere, go to that. That'll tell you exactly what it tasted like. Yeah, rice and corn. Anheuser Busch, rice and corn. That's their forte, I guess. And that's kind of what it tasted like, just like normal Killian's does. Rice, corn, and red. The only real redeeming thing about this beer was they gave it to me in a 20-ounce glass when they brought it to the table, and the big 20-ounce glass was only $4, so I guess that's a plus on their side. So I gave this a C. It's not getting much more than that. So if you go to Bahama Breeze, do not get this beer. It's not really that good unless you're just looking for, a 20-ounce beer that doesn't cost very much. So, well, drink what you like, enjoy what you drink, and I'll see you next time.